What made you decide to forge your pilot's license in the first place?
That question came from an FAA safety inspector at the San Jose Flight Standards District office. His name is Alexander Strachan. He prepared that question for an interview with Rachel Neville. Not, did you forge it? Not, we have reason to believe you may have forged it. He already knew. The question was past that. The federal government was past that. I want you to sit with that for a second before we go anywhere else. This is a bonus episode of The Messenger, the Rachel cancer scam. Season 2 is done, and the final episode ran. And literally, right after it finished, some things arrived that couldn't wait, and this is one of them. If you're new here, 90 seconds, that's all you need. My name's Harry Jacobs. I spent 2 years, spent 563 days thinking Rachel was in the hospital, and about 2.5 years thinking that she had cancer. And she was in the hospital in San Luis Obispo, California. She wasn't. She was living her life, going to work, traveling the world free on airline benefits, sleeping next to her husband, carrying on an emotional affair with me, and starting an affair with a coworker named Russ. Her name is Rachel Neville, also known as Rachel Gage. She faked cancer. She faked pregnancy. She faked paralysis and brain surgery, memory loss. She told me she was a lawyer. She told coworkers she was a trauma nurse and a helicopter pilot for Mercy Air. She claimed she rescued a pregnant woman off a cliff in Big Sur and delivered her baby mid-flight. None of any of that was true. When her husband Mark found out about me and found out about Russ, and he confronted her, she didn't really come clean in any honest way. What she ended up doing was she built a case against him instead, fabricated a bunch of threatening text messages, staged an acid attack, filed 9 calls to law enforcement based on manufactured evidence, got him arrested at gunpoint, facing 10 felonies, got a restraining order that kept him from his 3 minor daughters. For what is now over 2 years, the lead detective on the case ended up not believing her as well. And he shared that with the DA's office. Exactly that. And what you're about to hear in this episode is what happened after I thought this was all over. I want to tell you about a couple of things that I didn't have when season 2 wrapped up, when the podcast wrapped up. A couple of public records requests, 2 sets of responses, and what those responses tell us about where this story actually stands right now. In this episode, we're going to talk about the FAA. You heard me talk about reporting Rachel to the FAA back in 2024. That report was made in July of 2024. The story's in the podcast in Season 2, Episodes 13 and 15. You can hear me talk about it. I filed a detailed complaint. I was contacted by FAA investigator Michael Paradise. And I also wrote to Robert Isom, the CEO of American Airlines. Did that a couple of times. Actually found the real nurse whose license number Rachel used for that nursing license. And I found the young pilot in Florida whose certificate number appeared on Rachel's fake credentials. The results of the first investigation were a disappointment. The FAA told me that because Rachel hadn't physically boarded a plane and attempted to fly it, they couldn't act on my complaint. She'd only shown the certificate as a digital image on her phone. To coworkers who questioned her, to women that she wanted to impress, and the men she wanted to impress, to keep the story alive. She did it to all of us. Between July of 2024, when the FAA closed their initial investigation, the one with me, and March of 2025, I heard nothing from the FAA. I hadn't heard back after I made repeated attempts to contact American Airlines as well and Piedmont Air. They operate the station at the San Luis Obispo County Airport as a joint venture like they do in many other parts of the country. What I didn't realize is that in the middle of March of 2025, one of Rachel's coworkers filed their own complaint with the FAA independently, without me. This coworker was a different person than either one of the people that I interviewed in season 2. This person had seen enough. They gathered photos and reached out to the FAA through official channels, through their complaint line. The investigation was in motion very quickly. And I was contacted by another coworker who asked if it would be okay if my information was passed along to this investigator. And of course, I said yes. And we'll get to that conversation in a minute. Let's fast forward to my FOIA request, which was fulfilled the week after the last episode aired. The request was made in March 2026, and I just went down a list of things that I was looking to get out of the FAA regarding the fake pilot's license, regarding any complaints with the FAA, the TSA, or anything related to Rachel Ann Neville and their files. In particular, all investigative files, complaint records, and witness statements. Now, regarding the FAA and their San Jose Flight Standards District Office, they looked through their records. They found all the material related to my request that they could. They turned over what they legally could. What they withheld, they cited specifically. Exemption 5, the deliberative process privilege. That exemption protects an agency's internal opinions, recommendations, and conclusions while a matter is still under consideration. Now, having said that, there's a bunch of opinion that I still received from them. They're protecting their own work product, in other words. That means they've reached some conclusions, which means this investigation may not be a dead end. Let me walk you through what the documents show. The case was assigned a task ID and an enforcement investigation number. That's not a courtesy call. That's a formal investigation. Inspector Alex Strachan reached out to Rachel by email on March 26, 2025. Subject line was direct. Rachel Neville pilot certificate. He asked her to schedule a 30-minute phone interview. He attached a couple of documents, including the pilot's Bill of Rights and a Privacy Act notice. Now, you don't send someone a pilot's Bill of Rights as a how do you do. You send it because they're the subject of an investigation, and they have legal rights in connection with that investigation. Alex Strachan also reached out to witnesses, co-workers at the airport, people who had seen Rachel's alleged credentials, people who had heard the stories about Mercy Air, about the helicopter rescues, about the pilot's license that she claimed to hold. One of those witnesses described what Rachel had been telling people. She claimed to be a chopper pilot and nurse for Mercy Air. She told a story about rescuing a mother off a cliff, helping deliver her baby. She showed people the picture of the certificate on her phone as proof. The investigator's own notation about this situation reads,
Is this cosplay or bragging?
That's an FAA investigator asking that question about Rachel Neville in an official case file. Now, let me tell you what records confirm about Rachel's actual aviation history, because there actually is one. Rachel Neville does actually have a student pilot certificate. It was issued through a certified flight instructor named Roger Lloyd Massey. She's taken a couple of flying lessons. She is, by the FAA's own records, a student pilot, not a private pilot, not a commercial pilot, not a helicopter pilot for Mercy Air, and certainly not an American Airlines pilot waiting for her onboarding date. A student. The certificate that she was showing people, the one with the photograph, the FAA watermark, and the holographic seal, show a private pilot certificate. Number 385791, issued December 8th of 2006. That certificate doesn't belong to Rachel Neville. It belongs to someone else. The FAA knew that, and that's why Inspector Strachan was prepping an interview. The investigative file that came back to me through the FOIA request included the inspector's prepared questions for his interview with Rachel. These came directly from the federal case file. We have a voice actor reading Inspector Strachan's prepared questions. I think it's important for you to hear what they were thinking about and what he was thinking about, specifically about this fake pilot's license. You're going to hear him reference a handful of acronyms. SITA stands for Security Identification Display Area. It's issued by an airport authority after ID verification, background check, TSA vetting, and security training. It allows the holder of the badge to access secure zones in the airport, including airside ramps, gates, aircraft parking areas, and operation zones. CAMI, C-A-M-I, that stands for Civil Aerospace Medical Institute. And LEAP, which is Law Enforcement TSA Coordination. ASH, or ASH, stands for Aviation Safety Hotline, as best I can tell. And the last one is EIR, which is the acronym for Enforcement Investigative Report.
Under what context did you use this pilot certificate, and why are you showing it to anybody? Has anyone ever questioned or doubted the authenticity of the certificate? Have you printed out this certificate? What type of pilot are you? Now, with your piloting, what are you trying to achieve? Is there a goal in mind? Are you actively taking flying lessons? We have a complaint that's triggered an investigation. Do you have anything that you'd like to discuss, divulge, or do you have any idea why we're calling? Tell us a story.
And then there's this one.
What made you decide to forge your license in the first place?
I just want you to sit with that last question for a minute. What made you decide to forge your license in the first place? Not did you, not we believe you may have. The question assumes the answer because they already had it. The FAA didn't need Rachel to confess. They needed her to say it out loud, on the record in a federal interview, under a pilot's Bill of Rights advisement. That's the step between an investigation and enforcement action. The records also reference the nursing license that she'd been showing coworkers. She was a registered nurse bearing her name, someone else's license number. A real nurse, a woman working in Northern California who had no idea her credentials were being used by a baggage handler in San Luis Obispo to get out of airport shifts and impress coworkers, was quite surprised when I found her. I spoke with her on a couple of occasions. I invited her to join us for the podcast, allow me to interview her. She said she'd consider it, but that never happened. I can tell you that she was disturbed. I encouraged her to file a complaint. Not sure if she ever did. What I do know is that the FAA investigator flagged this in his notes. He noted that the license number Rachel was using belonged to someone else entirely, and he took her name, and that's in the file. Now, I want to go back to something I mentioned at the top, the second investigation, the one that I didn't start. The records confirm that the second complaint, which triggered that investigation, came from inside the airport. A co-worker at the SLO airport had gathered evidence, photos of the credentials that Rachel had shown people, and other witness accounts. That employee reached out to the FAA. The FAA took it seriously enough to open a case. They assigned an EIR number to it. They involved the San Jose Flight Standards District Office. They contacted witnesses and prepared a formal interview with Rachel. And that's not nothing. That's a federal enforcement inquiry initiated by someone who worked alongside of Rachel and decided they had seen enough. And I want to say something about that person. I don't know who they are. I was never told. The identity's redacted from the documents, but whoever you are, thank you. You saw something wrong and you spoke up. In a workplace where Rachel had been protected, enabled, and shielded for years. You said something, and that matters. I want to walk you through some of the highlights from what I received. If you've been invested in the story, I think you'll find some of these things important. It was important enough for me to jump back in here and provide you with more information. I thought I was done with it all. When I was interviewed as a part of the second investigation by Strachan, I began by sharing with him that I filed my own complaint back in March of 2024. He was stunned when he heard that. He indicated there was nothing in the file when we first spoke. He asked for the name of the investigator that I spoke with and copies of the communication that I had. His name was Michael Paradise. We're going to take a quick commercial break. I want to encourage you to follow our social media. I'd recommend you follow Instagram. In the show notes, you'll find a link to all of them. There's a lot more information and backup for what I'm discussing. Much of the evidence that I reference in these episodes here, you'll find there. You'll see screenshots, additional commentary in the way of videos. I also want to encourage you to comment and send along a DM if you've got questions. I answer everything that comes my way. Also, please take a moment to rate the podcast here. Leave a review if you're so inclined. Thanks for following. In this episode, we'll continue after this message. Took him a few days, but he got back to me. We had a phone interview, and I provided him with copies of everything that I had and they had provided for Paradise back in July. From the FOIA, We'll start with the FAA internal memo about the investigation.
Synopsis. Coworker possibly has a fraudulent pilot license and is flying for Mercy Air. Claimant said that license number doesn't show up in his searches and is now concerned about the safety of coworkers should they go along for an aircraft ride. Allegation 1. Coworker has a fraudulent pilot certificate. Investigation. On March 13, 2025, this inspector reached out to the complaint reporter for further details regarding this case, leaving a voicemail and sending an email, both on March 13, 2025. The reporter briefly returned the inspector's call later that day, but only had a few minutes to speak. During the conversation, it was mentioned that the reporter would follow up via email and provide a picture of the alleged fraudulent certificate, along with other supporting evidence. A preliminary internet search of the accused name revealed an additional Yelp complaint, which included a picture of the fraudulent pilot certificate. However, the image was too pixelated in the name and address fields to be legible. Copies of the picture showing both a nurse's license and the pilot certificate were later obtained. The picture of the certificate appeared to be obviously manipulated.
Now, the Yelp reviewer was me. Before I initiated my complaint in July of 2024 to the FAA, I put up a Yelp review on the American Airlines account. This is the message that was left on my cell on March 21st, 2025.
Good morning. My name is Alexander Strachan. I'm from the San Jose, California Flight Standards District Office, and I'm calling in regards to a Yelp review that I've come across, and I would like to ask you some further questions. So if you were responsible for putting the review on Yelp, please call me back, and I am calling on Friday morning at 10:45 Pacific time. In the meantime, have yourself a great day. Bye now.
Now let's get back to the report from Strachan.
To gather more information, the inspector interviewed 2 CITA-badged coworkers at K-SLO and tracked down the Yelp reviewer. These inquiries revealed that an additional FAA complaint regarding the same individual had been investigated and subsequently closed by an Orlando-based ASI, with no further action taken. The forged pilot certificate was found to be a poorly constructed image, and no physical copy of a certificate had been presented or used for purposes of gaining access or operating an aircraft. Interviews with individuals familiar with the accused painted a troubling picture of a person with mental health issues, including suicidal thoughts, the possession of firearms, and a history of lies and fabricated stories. These stories allegedly include false claims about being a licensed medic in a medevac helicopter, as well as fabricating heroic pilot-nurse rescue stories. The pictures of the pilot certificate and the nurse license were forwarded via multi-message service to her colleagues, who disbelieved her story that she was both a pilot and a nurse. The interviewees all expressed concerns that the accused has ongoing mental health issues that need to be monitored.
During the course of the investigation, they did find others at the airport that were willing to talk. In response to the complaint, Strachan responded to the coworker with the following email.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. You know Rachel's middle name. Do you know her address or city she lives in? Do you have a contact number for Rachel? Who is Mercy Air? What location? Under what context did you see this pilot certificate?
There's another section within the release that I found interesting. Strachan put a list of thoughts and questions together that he planned to go over with Rachel.
Put her at ease with background. What is your job? Did you receive the pilot's Bill of Rights and privacy notice? What type of pilot are you? With your piloting, what are you trying to achieve? Or is there a goal in mind? Are you actively taking lessons? We have a complaint that's triggered an investigation. Do you have anything you'd like to discuss, divulge, or do you have any idea why we're calling? Tell us a story. There's a picture of a purported fraudulent pilot license on Yelp. Has anyone ever questioned or doubted the authenticity of your certificate? Have you printed out the certificate? What made you decide to forge your license in the first place? What did you use it for? Do you ever feel guilty about the decision to forge your license? What would the average person think about the mental stability of someone who made these tales? How do you justify your actions to yourself, knowing that forging a license is illegal? Do you believe that your actions have harmed others in any way? Why or why not? When you think about the consequences of being caught for falsification or forgery, how do you feel? In your opinion, how does forging a license compare to other crimes in terms of severity? Would you consider surrendering your student's certificate?
To this point, I've not given Rachel's boyfriend's last name. He's a former employee of American and Piedmont. He was fired in the spring of last year for cause. I am now going to give you his full name because it's part of the FOIA release. It's public information. His name is Russell Kessler. Russ Kessler has been a resident of Paso Robles for well over 20 years. He worked as a prison guard in the California system for a number of years as well. He's retired, and he went to work for the airport.
Russell Kessler and Rachel Gage, or Neville, are American Airlines customer service representatives at KSBP. Rachel has a SITA badge and claims to be a pilot, nurse, etc. Reported to American Airlines management, but no action was taken due to Rachel not using fake credentials for anything other than getting out of shifts at American Airlines by claiming she's a pilot for Mercy and works a lot. Girlfriend was texted the photographs as proof that she is a pilot and a nurse.
That right there is a gut punch. American and Piedmont management acknowledged that Rachel may have been in possession of the pilot certificate, but because she wasn't using the credentials for anything, they weren't going to take any action. On March 26, 2025, Strachan emailed Rachel through her American Airlines email.
Dear Rachel Neville, we've received a complaint in our office and would like to schedule some time with you to discuss your pilot certificate. Please respond to this email with your availability so we can set up a time for a 30-minute telephone interview next week.
And here are his notes from that conversation.
The accused, Rachel Neville, stated that she's going through a difficult divorce and has a restraining order against her former spouse. She claims that her former spouse and his associates, including the Yelp reviewer, are out to ruin her life by fabricating these pictures and stories. Yelp reviewer was also engaged to the accused and subsequently separated. The accused denies creating or using these pictures of the pilot certificate or nursing license.
What's interesting to me about this statement is that it doesn't appear, at least through the record that was shared through the FOIA request, that he asked any of the questions that he outlined that you heard a moment ago. It's as if she went full Laura Owens on him, played the victim, and he bought it.
Finding not substantiated. The complainant is employed by American Airlines in San Luis Obispo as a customer service representative, and the accused is also a customer service representative at the same company and station. The accused holds a student pilot certificate with no medical and also holds a SITA ramp badge. Cammie was contacted for advice and suggested a flag on her file with airman records for future issues. Corrective action? Refer this case to LEAP at ASH for further investigation and possible revocation of SITA badge. Airman certification has placed a flag on this airman's file for any subsequent accusations.
The second component was the claim that Rachel made about being a pilot for Mercy Air.
Investigation, March 17, 2025. A call was made to Mercy Air, which transferred to Air Methods. An inquiry was made to Human Resources regarding whether the accused is currently or has ever been employed by this company. Finding not substantiated. There's no record that the accused has worked or has had any contact with this company. Corrective action. Cammie will flag the airman's file so evaluation can be done if this airman applies for a greater certification or has subsequent accusations.
All of that information was forwarded to FAA Supervisor Benjamin Brillo, along with this bit of detail.
Interviews with individuals familiar with the accused painted a troubling picture of a person with mental health issues, including suicidal thoughts and a history of lies and fabricated stories, as well as being in possession of firearms. These stories allegedly include false claims about being a licensed medic in a medevac helicopter, as well as fabricating heroic nurse, pilot rescue stories. The pictures of the pilot certificate and nurse's license were forwarded via text to her colleagues, who disbelieved her story that she was both a pilot and a nurse. The interviewees all expressed concerns.
For proof of all this FOIA request, I'll put them up on our Instagram account in the coming days. Let me be clear about what we have and what we don't have. The FAA's response to my FOIA confirms that investigators definitely opened a case, confirms that Strachan was involved and Michael Paradise was involved. What I can tell you is this: Rachel spent years telling people she was a pilot. She sent photographs of a forged FAA document with a TSA and FAA watermark on it. Coworkers questioned her. She used that document to get out of shifts. It's outlined in the report to impress people, to maintain a story that had zero foundation in reality. And then the FAA opened the file with her name on it. And I can tell you one thing about the government: they don't want to be on their list, any of their lists. The other important piece is that I participated in an investigation with the TSA's Burbank office. I had initially contacted them after I realized that the first investigation was going nowhere. At that point in time, they essentially told me to get lost. But what's interesting about the TSA investigation the second time around is that it happened in the beginning of April of 2025, literally just after the second FAA investigation finished up. I wished I had some news to report on that would lead us to have some hope. Maybe Homeland Security would follow up on this, but they didn't do a thing. I have a follow-up to my FOIA, which did request TSA information, and that got me a lot of nothing from them. You know why I started this podcast? Because the woman that I love lied to me for 2.5 years about cancer. That was a story I needed to tell. And what that story became over 33 episodes and a couple seasons is something totally different. It became this true crime story on its own. A story about a woman who didn't just lie to men who loved her, she lied to federal agencies. By the way, lying to a federal officer during an investigation, I believe that's a crime. She lied to law enforcement, local law enforcement, to the DA. She fabricated evidence that put an innocent man in handcuffs. She used her own children as props and is still doing that. It's a performance that served no one but herself. And now we have the receipts from the institutions that have no stake in any of this. No reason to take my side, no reason to give a shit about my story. FAA doesn't work for me. They don't work for Mark Neville. They work for the United States government. And they sent Rachel the pilot's Bill of Rights. They put a note in her file and indicated that something was wrong with Rachel Gage Neville from a mental health perspective. I will say this: I have at least one more bonus episode coming out within the next couple of weeks or so. So now I get to say something that I thought I was done saying. On the next episode of The Messenger, the Rachel cancer scam, the DA's office confirms on official letterhead that it possesses records of the forensic investigation into Rachel's digital accounts. The Paso Robles Police Department confirms an active multi-agency investigation that includes multiple law enforcement agencies. And the day after a judge granted Rachel a restraining order based on her claim that she feared for her life, she appears on Ring camera attempting to re-enter the home. If she was afraid for her safety, why is she trying to get back in? We'll talk about all of that next time on The Messenger, the Rachel cancer scam.